Good afternoon, boys and girls. Mrs. Disidores here for Tuesday's Read Aloud. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd, and I am here for first and second grade to do Greene. All right, we stopped in the middle of chapter 3 yesterday, but let me review a little bit so far of what we know about this book. It's a realistic fiction, which means it can really happen, but it's made up. It's about a made-up character. Her name is Gooney Bird Greene, and we learned how she got her name because when she was a little baby, she reminded her parents of a bird. It's actually a real bird. A Gooney bird is a real bird. So after we're done with this, I'll have to find something to read about that bird. Never heard of it. But she's new in a new second grade class, and her teacher is Mrs. Pigeon, and they go to Water Tower Elementary School, and all the kids really like her. She dresses differently, she does her hair differently, and she's not shy, but she is very polite. And in her second grade class, they're learning about stories and what makes a good story. And Gooney Bird has a lot of great stories, which we think are made up, but she's proven to us that so far that her stories have been true, although they sound like they're made up. For instance, she's in the middle of telling her class a story entitled How Gooney Bird Came from China on a Flying Carpet. And Mrs. Pigeon said, well, you can't come to China through a truck. You have to go on an airplane. And she was talking how there are different types of towns named China. And I didn't know that. In Texas, there's a town named China. In North Carolina, I think there's Chinas in different states. So although we're used to talking about the country China, there are towns in the United States named China. So she's telling her story, and she did prove to Mrs. Pigeon that she's actually right, that China is a town. So this is where we left off, where she took up her story again. After the moving van left China, the Greene family loaded up their station wagon with 5 big suitcases. Then they added a lawnmower that they had forgotten to put in the moving van, a cooler full of ham sandwiches and iced tea, a bundled up stack of National Geographic magazines, and an orange and white cat named Catman, who had no tail because he had flicked his former tail once under the lawnmower. The last thing they put into the station wagon was a rolled-up rug from the front porch of their house. It was too long to fit. They tried it sideways and folded and upside down, but it still wouldn't fit. Let's leave it behind, Mr. Greene suggested. But Mrs. Greene began to cry. It was my mother's, she said. There's a stain on it where my mother spilled some black bean soup 40 years ago. I feel sentimental about this rug. So Mr. Greene agreed to take the rug because it made him cry too, if his wife cried. He decided to put the back window of the station wagon down so that the end of the rolled-up rug could stick out. He made certain that everything was nicely arranged and that Catman had a comfortable place to sleep on in the back seat, just beneath the end of the rug and next to the place where Gooney Bird would sit. Mr. Greene and Mrs. Greene and Gooney Bird Greene all got into the car and drove away from China, starting their long journey to Water Tower. They drove for many, many hours. They ate all of the ham sandwiches and drank all of the iced tea. They stopped to get gas. They went to the bathroom. They played the car radio and listened to news and operas and football games and talk shows about love relationships. Suddenly Gooney Bird glanced down and noticed with dismay that her beloved Catman had disappeared. She looked around the floor of the back seat, but Catman was not there. She heard a small sound like a purr coming inside the rolled-up rug, but she knew that Catman had entered the rug. He probably found it warm and dark and cozy. But Gooney Bird was worried about Catman. She decided to try to get him out. She reached into the rolled-up center of the rug, but he slithered away, beyond her hands. She looked at the backs of her parents' heads, wondering if she should tell them about the problem with Catman. But her mother was dozing, and her father was driving, watching the road carefully and listening to a radio program about whales. So Gooneyberg decided to wiggle into the rug herself to rescue Catman. "Oh no!" Keiko cried. "I'm going to faint." "Shh," the other children said. Remember, Gooneyberg is telling the story to her second grade class. It was dark and dusty and a very tight squeeze inside the rolled up rug, but Gooneyberg wiggled inch by inch toward Catman. Catman slithered away inch by inch. She could see his glittering eyes as he backed away from her head. Gooneyberg was determined to rescue him. She continued forward. Suddenly, an amazing thing happened. Even though Gooneyberg was not very large and did not weigh very much, and was not wearing her heavy diamond rings from the palace that day, her weight inside the rolled-up rug caused it to tilt. At that moment, Mr. Greene leaned forward to change the radio station, and the car went over a pothole in the road. The rolled-up rug containing both Catman and Gooneyberg slid out of the back of the station wagon and flew through the air before it landed at the side of the road, in some thick grass beside a fence post. A cow chewing a purple flower looked curiously at it and then wandered away. The station wagon drove on, around a curve in the road. Slowly the rug unrolled. So Gooneyberg and her cat fell out the back of the car, rolled up in a rug, and the car kept going. Her dad didn't know they fell out the back. Catman's fur was standing on end, and if he had had a tail, his tail would have been sticking straight up in the air. For a moment, Catman stood still, looking at Gooneyberg. Then he ran away, very fast. Gooneyberg sat up. She was not entirely sure what had happened, but she was not hurt. She simply wondered where her family was, and her cat, and the car. Other cars stopped and people got out. Many people offered a drink of water from their bottles of Evian, but Gooneyberg wasn't thirsty. After a while, a police car with a flashing light came. A TV reporter came, and a cameraman. While the policeman talked on his radio, the TV reporter, a woman with very large hair, interviewed Gooneyberg and called her the little girl who had a flying carpet ride. In the interview, Gooneyberg described Catman and asked people to call the station if they found him. But she never got Catman back. Eventually, the police car took her to her parents, who were both crying at a gas station 4 miles down the road. When Gooneyberg and her parents were finally reunited, everyone, including 2 policemen, a TV reporter, and the gas station owner, hugged and kissed and did the tango. The end. "What a lovely story," Mrs. Pigeon said. "An exciting one, too, but a little sad to lose your kitty that way." "Catman is not a kitty," Gooneyberg said. "He is a cat, and I didn't say I lost him. I just said that I never got him back." "So no one found him and called the TV station?" "Actually, they did," Gooneyberg replied. "But where is Catman now?" asked asked Mrs. Pigeon. "He was consumed by a cow," Gooneyberg said. "But that's a different story." "By a cow? You're joking," Mrs. Pigeon said. "No," said Gooneyberg, "I'm not joking. I tell only absolutely true stories." "Tell it! Tell it!" the children called. "I will," Gooneyberg said. Another day. So that's the end of chapter 3. Now, when we began chapter 3, we were thinking, oh, this is definitely a made-up story. She must be lying, because her title was How Gooneyberg Came from China on a Flying Carpet. So if you remember yesterday we said, and my daughter Colette was here, oh, it sounds like Aladdin riding on a carpet, a flying carpet through the sky. Well, not really. From the country China, way, way over, miles and miles away from us. Well, it turns out that her story was true, but what we thought the story was about wasn't. Okay, she came from China, a town somewhere in the United States, not the China, the country. And she did come on a flying carpet, but she didn't fly through the sky like we thought. She actually flew out the back of the car, the station wagon. So Gooneyberg is right. She does tell true stories. We just think they're going to be made up because of their titles. So she's a very creative girl. And we'll learn more about her stories as we continue this novel. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Okay. Bye, guys.